So I get asked a lot how I prepare my cards for grading and also the actual process of submitting the cards for grading. So today we're going to show you exactly that. So let's get straight into it. First, of course, is going to be a card that you're going to want to submit. For me, it's going to be this Leafeon VMAX. But none of these other things I'm going to mention are basically must-haves, but they're going to be nice to have, and in my opinion, make things a lot easier for you. And of course, everything I mentioned is going to be linked down in the description, so if you need to pick something up, or if you want to grab something for later submissions or something, feel free. But a little bit of a shameless plug, you don't really need to do any of this stuff. We do offer a middleman service, so if you guys want to grade with PSA or BGS, you guys can send your cards to us. We will prepare the cards, send them off, get them graded, reveal them on a live stream, and send them back out your way. So if that's easier for you, that's cool as well. Also linked in the description. But now that my shameless plug's out of the way, the first thing that you're going to need is most likely Post-its or some sort of pull tab. They even make those sleeves, like the built-in pull tabs you can use for whenever you use your semi-rigids to submit your cards. Just makes it a lot easier for the grader to pull the cards in and out. I just go with Post-it tabs. I'm going to be getting the sleeves here soon. These have just had a surplus supply in my drawers, so I just keep using those. In my opinion, the second thing you'll need, it's not an absolute need, but it does make it, like I said, a lot easier, are semi-rigid card holders or grade submission sleeves, whatever you guys want to call them. These make it a lot easier for the grader to kind of pull the cards out without having to worry about the cumbersome top loaders. Top loaders, I'm sure you're aware, really hard to get your fingers in and out of to get the cards out. So if you don't use pull tabs, these are probably going to be your best bet. So semi-rigids, almost a must-have, but just a nice to have. Third is some sort of mobile device like phone, tablet, computer, something like that to do the actual submission process on, or access to a printer to print out the submission form. So the fourth thing I would recommend is completely optional at this point. This is just something if you're submitting vintage cards, maybe some secondhand cards that have like light scratching, a little bit of dirt or grime or something like that on them. And that is a cleaning or restoration kit of some kind. I personally use TCG Card Care. We're actually an affiliate with them. This is a fantastic product. I'll pop up a couple like before and afters on the screen of some of the cards that I've cleaned. Honestly, it does a really, really good job, mainly cleaning the holofoil of the card and also like getting rid of that dirt and grime, like I said, on like the fronts or the back. The back, you always see those tiny little black specks. This just makes them disappear. It's actually really nice. I'm not going to talk about this too much. We do use this for a lot of our vintage submissions, but I'll let the actual results speak for themselves. You guys can decide if you want to pick something like this up. It will be in the description. It is a little bit pricey, more for like I said, vintage or secondhand cards. And I know what some of you might be thinking. It's probably seem like a waste of money or like they don't really even work. One of my favorites is the card is altered, so the grader won't take it anymore and just send it back to you as altered. I can assure you that none of that actually happens. It definitely does work. The cards will not be sent back altered. We've submitted quite a few cards with cleaning, like on our live streams and stuff. In this video, we're going to actually be cleaning a card as well. And I couldn't have asked for a better group of cards to go through this process with. We got a lot of beautiful cards in this collection, but we're going to be starting it off with the Shadowless base set Charizard. So a customer of mine ended up finding their childhood collection, reached out to get them cleaned and to get them submitted. So we're going to use a restoration solution on this Charizard to kind of go through that process to kind of show you guys what it looks like. It's not going to be the entire process. We're just going to speed through the cleaning process and we're going to give you a nice before and after. So mainly we're going to be focusing on the holofoil of the card. This is what it looks like beforehand. You can see some really small micro scratches on that left-hand side of the card, like a couple really small ones on the top as well. That one's a little bit deeper on the top. We're going to see if we can kind of clean like those little bitty hairline scratches on the bottom and see if we can clean these up on the left and maybe brighten that holofoil up a little bit. It looks really good for the card. Honestly, it's a very, very old card, so we're going to see if we can do anything to help it out. And I think there was a few small issues on the back. Yeah, a little bit of grime on the back. We're going to be cleaning that up, and it's just going to be fast forward, and we'll see you when it's done. So, I mean, as you can see, we just finished the holofoil cleaning portion. As you can see, this restoration solution does really, really well, cleaning up those really small micro scratches. As you can see on the bottom, they're no longer in that bottom holofoil. Those two bigger scratches are almost completely gone. You can't see those at all any longer. And even the top scratch, the one that I thought was a little bit deeper, I didn't think we were gonna be able to clean that off, but it looks like we're able to get pretty much a full restoration of that holofoil, minus a few tiny micro scratches still kind of in the holofoil on the left-hand side. So I think I might give it one more small pass in that area to to see if we can clean those up a bit. All right, after that second little pass through, we can kind of see that the hollow foil scratches appear to be completely gone. I mean, there are some very tiny little specks left over, but like I said, that top hollow foil scratch and those bottom ones are completely gone. That hollow foil is looking significantly better than it was. Hopefully that helps a little bit with the grade. There are still some hollow foil bleed through spots, like in that top right there, and also in this bottom. There are some specks, so it's not a perfect card. There are going to be imperfections and even a hollow foil like kind of bleed through on this scratch on the surface. That's definitely something that the solution can't fix, but it can make that surface of the hollow foil look significantly better, as you've seen. This is why I love this solution, so it'll be linked in the description as well. We're going to take a quick look at the back. We're not going to use hardly as much solution on the back. There is this tiny little bit, so I'm going to see if I can clean that up. All right, looks really good. I was able to get all the solution cleaned off, and the back did get rid of that little speck there. It was kind of stubborn there at first, but it looks like cleaned up. There's only a few specks of whitening on this card. For it being a shadowless Charizard, this is fantastic. This is a great find. I can't wait to see what kind of grade this is going to come back as. We're sending them all to Beckett. This is what me and the customer prefer, so we're going to be sending them all over to Beckett. But if you're not up for all that and you're submitting maybe a modern card like our submission here, you won't really need to worry about that most of the time unless there's a little bit of dirt and grime on the back. Some people say use a Q-tip. I would not suggest that. Q-tips are really, really hard. Even if you just press softly, it's most likely harder than the card itself, so it's going to leave some dents or scratches or potentially even rip up the back of the card. I've seen it all. So I use something trusted and something well known. That way there's no issues. But a good microfiber wipe down honestly would be probably more than enough for a modern card like this, especially if it's packed fresh, hasn't been handled that much. It's always good. Make sure there's no oil residue or fingerprints or anything like that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I would really recommend for modern cards. They make those little centering tools and stuff, but typically when I go through my process, I just give the card a really good look over. I kind of do like a zigzag pattern across the surface of the card, like really making sure the surface is good. I do that front and back, and then I'll scan the edges and the corners, making sure the corners are nice and rounded, making sure the edges don't have any whitening or kind of foil lift or anything like that. And then they also make those little centering tools. I personally don't use them. I just kind of eyeball it and just ensure the centering isn't terrible. If it's PSA, the centering really isn't that big of a deal. It's got to be pretty bad for them to like really care about it. Beckett, on the other hand, though, they are definitely sticklers on centering. So if you want to get a centering tool, go for it. We've gotten tons of black labels without the centering tool, so I just feel like maybe I have a good eye for it. I don't know. Enough tooting my own horn and stuff, but yeah, just give it a good look once over. Make sure it's good and clean. Once you've done that, just grab yourself a pull tab or some sort of tab to apply to either the front or the back of the card. I like to put it on the back. Make sure it's nice applied. Grab yourself that semi-rigid. These can be really tricky though, like whenever you're first using them. So just kind of get your finger in there, give it a nice pinch. When you have your finger in there and give it a pinch, the card will basically just slide right in there. And then from that point on, just pinch and just kind of wiggle the card right where you need it to be. And simple as that. It's pretty easy once you've done it a couple times. Just get the card in there. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. The cool thing about these is they don't really move around or jiggle in shipment, so that's kind of why they prefer them as well. It's less likely to get damaged in transit from banging into stuff or whatever, but they don't protect from impacts or bends like at all. So an impact can still really damage the card, and also bends can still cause creases and stuff like that. So be very careful even when handling them in these. That's what I suggest. Now it's time for the submission process itself. You're going to be submitting with BGS or PSA. We're going to do both in this video, so you can just jump to whichever one you want to do, but we're going to go ahead and start with Beckett. First things first, you're going to want to type in Beckett Grading up here in your search window into Google, and then it should be like the first or second link. Click on whichever one you want. When you go to the website, you're going to want to click on the submit button in the top right hand corner. For this portion, you can log in, create an account if you want. If you already have one, go ahead and log in, or continue as a guest. We're just going to continue as a guest. Now you're going to want to choose whichever option that you're currently submitting: cards, comics, mangas, autographs, stuff like that. So take note on exactly what you're submitting. We're just going to be submitting cards. Most likely you guys are going to be submitting cards as well. So let's go ahead and choose cards. Now that the options have pulled up, there's base, standard, express, and priority. For most of you, I'm guessing you're probably just going to want to do base. It's going to be a cheaper option. They did just recently lower their prices. Honestly, that's pretty dope. Now with base, there are two different options that you're going to want to choose from. either the base for $14.95, that's without subgrades, so you don't get any of the subgrades, any of the cool things that kind of explain where the grades came from. So for examples of subgrades, I'm going to show a couple cards that kind of explain the whole subgrade categories and stuff like that. Subgrades also, in my opinion, make the slab look a lot better, because imagine none of these numbers down here were there. It would just have a really small text, almost completely empty with a grade on the side. I think the subgrades really fill out the label as well and kind of explain where the final grade came from. So as you can see, they grade on centering, edges, corners, and surface. This base set Charizard I submitted a while back, it did pretty well when it comes to centering and edges, both getting a 9.5, and the surface and the corners both ended up getting a 9. So we kind of know where the problems are, right? You can kind of take a look at the card and identify where they kind of found the surface issues if you're good enough, right? Like some of us don't really know exactly where they get their numbers from, but you gotta put your trust in the grader. They're doing it for a living, right? So hopefully they kind of know what they're doing. Do your due diligence, take lots of pictures, really compare the cards from when they come back, because I actually have had damaged cards come back from PSA and BGS. So do your due diligence when you're submitting and make sure you have lots of records of the card you submit before you submit it, even though that still won't necessarily be an out for you, you know what I'm saying? They're probably still gonna stand by their grader and say, sorry, tough luck, right? For the most part, it's really consistent and you don't run into too many issues. Those are really one-off situations. And then for a black label, this is why Beckett, in my opinion, is king, is if you get a black label, that is like the top possible grade from any grading company. I stand by Beckett a lot because of their black labels. This was my very first ever Suicune that I pulled, and we submitted it, and it came back a black label 10, meaning that every single subgrade is a perfect 10. So this is, in all instances, a perfect card. They do have issues where Beckett makes a mistake or something like that. Possible, I guess, off-centered, maybe a corner ding or something like that, and it'll still get a black label. I've hardly seen any of those issues, but it does happen. They're not perfect. They're people just like you and me, so they're going to make mistakes. You just got to remember that. But hopefully those black labels come back, you guys, get some good luck and stuff. So, okay, so now that you guys kind of know the difference between non-subgrades and subgrades, personally, I submit every single submission with subgrades because I want to see exactly what they get. And there is a $3 upcharge for any 10s where subgrades are added. So if they add subgrades to your card and stuff like that, then you get charged extra anyway. So just, get the subgrades, save yourself a little bit of time. If you need your cards back, then basically the next grading services, standard, express, and priority, all they do is cut down the turnaround time. The turnaround time for base is roughly 45 business days, so days of the week, Monday through Friday, no holidays, stuff like that. And then standard is 20 to 25 business days. So if you really want it back, it's now only $35 a card. That's a great deal. I think it used to be like $80 a card, like where express is. And priority used to be $200 a card. So they just lowered a lot of these prices, which is fantastic. Those all come with subgrades, so you don't have to choose. Most of you are probably going to choose base, which is still $18 a card. It gets pretty pricey when you're submitting dozens of cards, right? So I'm going to go ahead and submit with subgrades. And this is the point to where you would type in the card that you're looking for. So for example, if we're going to be submitting base set Charizard, like the one I just showed you, it's good to type in the year. It gives you a good example right here, right? It says 1993 Magic the Gathering and then the number. So we're going to do 1999 Pokemon base unlimited. And then there you go. So if you type in the year, this like Pokemon, if it's going to be Pokemon, and then the set, and then also type Japanese if it's Japanese. So we'll do like 2021. Oops, 21 Eevee Heroes. There you go. So right there, 2021 Japanese, or Eevee Heroes Japanese, pulls up Sword and Shield expansion, Eevee Heroes Japanese, and you can kind of either scroll through or type in like the number. So it's like 240. I don't know what that is. There's no 240. So 200. I don't know what numbers there are actually, but whatever the numbers pull up as, you can just manually search or type in like Espeon. Typing in an Espeon should pull up all the Espeons, and then you can kind of verify, which one it is, the VSRs and stuff like that too. So go through your cards and just add them up. And then once you have your card, we're gonna go back to the 1999 base. All right, so once you have your card picked, in this instance, we're gonna do the 1999 base set Charizard, and you put in your quantity. So if you're grading 1, 2, or 5 of these cards, mainly for like more common cards, hopefully you've got 5 base set Charizards. I wish I did. But in this portion, you're going to want to put your declared value. Declared value is a little bit tricky for some people. Some people think like, oh, it's a $200 card, so I'm going to put $200 in. The declared value for Beckett, it doesn't really have any kind of like correlation to how much your grading is going to cost. Unlike PSA has a declared value in which that's how they charge you for your grading. Beckett, this is primarily for insurance. So say if you have a base set Charizard, it's worth $200 raw. Sure, you can cover it for $200 if it gets lost in the mail. But if you're like, this is a 10, there's like, it's a perfect card, I think it's going to be a fantastic grade, it's going to get a 10 no matter what. You want to insure it for what the value is going to be after it's graded. That's kind of what the declared value is meaning. So say if it's a base set Charizard in a 10 and you're convinced it's going to be a 10, or let's say a 9, let's go 9 for more realistic means. Those are roughly $1,200, right? So you're going to want to put your declared value at roughly $1,200. And on the right hand side, you'll see that you're submitting one card with insurance of $28. That goes up by every 1,000. So if you did 900, it's only $14. And then if you go to 1,000, I think it should change up to maybe not 28, maybe if you go like 1,100. Yeah, if you go over $1,000, it jumps up to another portion. So it should be every $1,000 the insurance increases. But you want to make sure that you do get this number somewhat accurately, like accurately done. You can check eBay last sold listings or price charting. Price charting is a pretty good source. A little outdated in some instances, but that's a pretty good avenue to find a price for it. And of course, if it's an oversized card, or if you're just getting it relabeled, or you just wanted to review a raw card or a graded card review, or a recase, you can just choose your option down below. And once you have your card in there, we'll just say $1,000. You click on continue, you fill out all of this information, your first name, last name, shipping address, all that kind of stuff. And then you choose your return shipping method. I would just go standard domestic. Honestly, standard domestic is really, really easy and really, really quick. It's only like 2 days or something like that, 2-3 days at the most. So I wouldn't really worry about jumping with expedited unless you have like a really, really important package, like one card like that you do not want to lose, like you wanted to get it back as soon as possible. That would be the only time I would ever choose expedited, because it's so much more expensive for like 1 extra day, right? You're not really going to see a huge difference there. And then let me go ahead and enter this information, and then I'll be right back. All right, so once you have your information entered and you go to the next step, I just entered in some bogus stuff. This is my actual gifting address, so if you do want to send us some stuff, we'll open it on our live streams or make a YouTube video about it. So feel free it's of course no pressure. But anyways, you would just go down, select I agree and I acknowledge, and then go to the checkout page. From here on, you would add your payment method, and you'll be good to go from that point on. Once you submit your order, you'll receive an email, and with that email is going to be basically tell you your submission ID and give you the needed information, like their address that I believe is in Plano, Texas, Suite 100. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it tells you all that information in the slip. So you print that out, print out 2 copies as well. So when you print out the 2 copies, keep one for yourself so you've got record of it, and then send the other one in the submission box with Beckett. If you guys want a detailed process of how I pack up my orders, like comment down below, and I'll let you guys know like behind the scenes of like how I pack up my orders. Honestly, just use common sense, lots of bubble wrap, put it in a box. Like always put it in a box. You can get those really cheap, like 6x6x6s or 6x6x4 boxes or something like that online for like $1, less than $1, right? Put it in those boxes. You're gonna thank yourself later. They're easier for the shipper to maintain and not lose. They're crush resistant, all that other good stuff. Just makes it a lot better, and you can tape the crap out of it. So so just go through this process, and then whenever you have your payment in there, just submit order, print out the form, and you're good to go. Let's go ahead and move over to PSA. So for PSA, all I did was typed in PSA grading into Google, and it's going to be the third one, official trading card grading. At least it pulled up Beckett and Collector's Universe. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go with PSA's website, of course. And whenever PSA comes up, they do show you their pricing right out of the gate. It's a little bit better of a deal depending on kind of who you talk to on like how much it is, because again, they go off of declared value very heavily on PSA. The declared value is like everything. So if you're submitting a $10,000 card, be prepared to spend $500 to get that card graded. Because if you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do value and put it as $10,000, most likely when PSA gets your card, they're gonna upcharge you for that card of $500. So they're gonna try to charge you $500 to get that card graded. Beckett doesn't have that system. It's another reason why we prefer Beckett. and we like the slabs a lot better too. Anyways, you would want to go through and click on the submit button, just like Beckett. Click on this blue submit button up here, and go ahead and build your collection and start your submission. And here you can sign in. All right, once you've created an account and signed in, it's a bit of a lengthy process, but we're gonna go ahead and get this started. There's a start submission button here, right here in the middle in the submission page, like right when you get signed in. So click on that, click on in the top right, new submission, and then kind of choose exactly what you're wanting to submit. Right now, of course, we're just going to do trading cards. And then in this section, if you have like an autographed card, make sure you enable that. Or if you just want it reviewed, crossover, this is items graded by other companies that you want to get graded in a PSA holder. Of course, do the crossover. But we're just going to choose grading, and we're going to go ahead and continue that. And in here, this is kind of where we are talking about the declared value. You want to make sure that you're probably choosing value 1980 to present. That's going to be your cheapest option with the same declared value, but a little bit slower turnaround time. So about $25 for the base submission, and Value Plus is about $40. So it's a little bit more expensive than Beckett is currently. But just to save a little bit of time, it's about the same turnaround time at 45 days. We'll choose the $24.99 option, but of course, most of you are probably going to want to choose the Value Plus at a $40 option. If you're really wanting it turned around a lot faster, or if you have a much more expensive card, $1,500 plus, you're going to want to choose regular, so on and so on and so forth. Just make sure you're doing your due diligence, your research on your cards as you're submitting them, so you know exactly how much to put in as declared value. We're just going to go ahead and do value 1980 to present. It's essentially the same process. So we're going to click on that and continue. And then here again, it's a lot like Beckett. You're going to be selecting or searching the card. So we're going to do 2021 Evolving Skies. So from this point on, it's going to pull up pretty much every single thing. It's good to start with the year, Pokemon, and from that point on, you can type in Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. But typically I just go to the set. So Evolving Skies, in instance, and we're going to be submitting our Leafeon VMAX, right? Our Leafeon VMAX alt art. So we're going to type in Leafeon VMAX. And sometimes they have a picture of what it is on the left-hand side, so you can kind of get a good idea. But it's not pulling up Leafeon VMAX. It's pulling up lots of like VMAXs as well. There's Leafeon. That's different. It's German, of course. I think you can type in English. All right, looks like if you type in English, it kind of helps. This one isn't as intuitive as Beckett is, in my opinion. If you type in Leafeon VMAX, it's pulling up a lot of things that include Leafeon and include VMAX. So you have to do a little bit more searching or kind of refine your search a little bit more. But if you just scroll down, I'm sure you'll end up finding it just like that. So you click on the card. Of course, the same goes with Beckett, your quantity and your declared value. For the declared value of, say, this Leafeon VMAX alt art, I'm pretty sure it's going to get a 10. So it's anywhere from $300 to $400. We're just going to put it right down the middle and say $350 for the declared value. And then you would click on save. If you don't click on save, it's not going to add the card to the bottom, right? So we'll go ahead and add another card. So we're going to add a V-Star Universe card just to kind of show you how Japanese might work for submitting. So it's the year, V-Star Universe, and that's what we're going to go with, V-Star Universe Japanese. So it's going to pull up Japanese Sword and Shield V-Star Universe, and you can kind of search through and kind of find your card. But we are going to choose Suicune. Now we're going to do the quantity of 1, and the declared value is a lot lower. This one's only about like $30. So we're going to go ahead and put it at $30, and we're going to click on save. So now that you've got your list of cards, you've got your 2 cards, 3, 10, however many it is, just continue to add them in here and save every time. Trying to do your best by like looking up eBay last sold listings for your declared value. And next, you're going to want to go ahead and proceed to checkout. And then from here, it's going to ask you if you want to submit your cards to the PSA Vault. Basically, it's like a storage, essentially, that you can keep your cards there so you don't actually have them shipped back to you. They'll stay in a nice controlled environment. It tells you no storage fees, insured, blah, 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 manage your collection. And essentially, you can sell your cards, all that kind of stuff from the vault. I prefer to have them all shipped back to me, so I'm going to choose that. You can choose whichever one you want. And from there on, you just add your address, your phone number, and if you want insured. For this one, you're going to need like an account number for FedEx and USPS. So I just choose insured shipping, so that way you don't have to have any of that information. All right, now that you've got your information entered in, you go ahead and just put in your phone number, everything. So from there, all you do is enter your address and your payment information, and you just click the review process and go through the steps. PSA also has that printout submission form that we mentioned, that Beckett also has, but this one comes with a little label that you'll need to cut out and attach to the outside of your box. in some fashion. So you can use, like I use my thermal label printer and I just cut it out and it's on a sticker. I just slap it on the box. It's basically good to go. Put the label on it. It will also tell you exactly where to submit the cards, and do the same thing like I mentioned with Beckett. Print out 2 copies of the form every time, one for your records and one for theirs. And each time it'll give you a customer copy and a PSA copy. So if you want, you can just print out one, but I always print out 2. It's better to be safe than sorry, right? And it'll ask you on the thing how many submissions are in here. You just put 1 submission, how many total items in the submission, how many cards you submitted. Fill that out, fold that up, stick that with your cards, bubble wrap like crazy, tape up your box really good, and send it off to the address that they give you on that form, and you're basically good to go. So I hope that helped a lot. That was just what I do in my submission process in the beginning, the things that I use, and basically a step-by-step guide on how to actually do the submissions themselves. If you do want me to show you the box up process, I'll go ahead and do that. Just comment down below. It's pretty easy. I'm sure you guys can honestly figure that out. It's not difficult, but feel free to stop by the streams. If you guys are interested, we stream on Whatnot, we stream on Twitch, and we stream on TikTok as well. All the links are in the description. You guys have been great. Hope you guys have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are from in the world. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.